right, we're on tape. All right. Well, good morning and welcome to this April 19th, 2022 meeting of the Public Infrastructure Committee. My name is Tony Emerson, representing District 4, and I'll let the other members please introduce themselves.
Neil Dobler, District 7.
Mike Lesser, District 9.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. It looks like we also have Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala is zooming in today, as well as looks like the mayor's office is also monitoring what we're doing here. So appreciate you guys being here, and please feel free if you guys have any questions, turn on your cameras and I'll try to catch you.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome. All right, so our first item of business is to approve the minutes from our February 15th meeting. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, that passes. Okay, our next item is a discussion of the proposals received on the parking garage RFQ. Ms. Ulrich?
So we wanted to provide a brief overview of what we received in terms of submissions based on the RFQ we put out to understand what the desire may be to purchase and or manage our parking collective system, mostly looking at off-street for the parking garages, but also including it as a broad stroke just to understand what options we may have as a city. We received several responses, two of which were from national management companies that put in their proposal the potential to acquire and or manage our parking off-street programs. So our parking garages, our surface parking lots, and even the potential of on-street parking. We had another proposal that specified the Uptowner garage, which currently we do not receive any revenue from. So this is managed independent of the city operations today. It's been a private lease agreement for several years now, but that was one of the options as it is a city-owned facility. We received another proposal for two of our newest garages, Crosby and Center City, both of which have outstanding bonds against them. So that would have to be mediated as part of that potential acquisition. And then we received another one for four unspecific, unnamed older garages as a desire to potentially purchase with the option to maybe go down to as little as two. So wanting to present the overall feel of the type of submittals we received and wanting to get the guidance from this committee as to proceed with all or some of the different exploratory options as a RFP.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions from the committee at this point? Councilman Dover?
Chair, thank you. Yeah, could you just walk back through that again?
Yes,
that was
sir.
a lot of information. So I'm only concerned right now with the folks that were interested in purchasing garages. So you had the two national management companies. Were they interested in purchase of the garages?
They listed both as purchase or manage, and they were looking at all of the garages, but not calling out specific ones.
Okay. And then we had one individual interested in the Uptowner garage.
Yes, sir.
Were there any purchase prices, or was this just an expression of interest?
At this point, it was an expression of interest. We have
Okay.
not released all the financials, assessments, all of the detailed information at this point, or we have also not vested out their financial capability of actually procuring the loan and managing it going forward. So it's very much exploratory.
All right, so I guess my question was, did they give a dollar amount that they were interested in?
No, sir.
No, thank you. Okay, so one individual for the Uptowner and then somebody that was interested in the two on Kansas Avenue, Crosby and Center City.
Yes, sir.
And then the last one, explain that one again.
It was a submittal of interest to purchase 4 of the older garages. They were not specific in their submittal of to which garages.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Lesser, any questions right now? Okay. I guess I'm not certain what direction you want from us. I guess without seeing the proposals and knowing what they're offering, I guess I don't. I'm kind of like Councilman Dobler. I'd be most interested in people who are wanting to buy them. And is that what the national companies were offering? The two nationals were offering to buy all of them?
They were the only two submittals that indicated the interest in all of the parking structures.
Okay.
So the challenge we're going to have is piecemealing off, which is no direct action from this committee is needed, just general guidance as how you would like us to proceed. If we started selling off pieces, so one garage or two garages to different individuals, the overall cost to our operations from a annualized basis, so not looking at the capital expenses necessarily directly, are going to have a minimal impact if we're only selling one or two garages. So we're still going to have to maintain all of our maintenance staff, our technical resources to manage the garage, all of the revenue systems that we have to maintain permitting, our internal admin staff. So our overall overhead doesn't decrease tremendously. So depending upon the garage and the level of deferred maintenance and what the purchase price willingness is, it may not make sense to sell off different pieces. And that's one of the items that had been called out in previous studies, is that with the system being a holistic view, they kind of balance each other. So wanting to get an idea from this body if there's an interest in individual sell-offs that would impact our operating revenue, or if it's really a collective, all the garages or none.
And then the other follow-up point on that is the two national companies expressed an interest in possibly purchase or possibly managing. And so that would be the other policy decision in terms of direction to staff. Is it something that we're even interested in to contract with the third party to pay additional money to have them managed? So,
Thank you, Chair. What does that mean, manage, versus what we do now?
So as the proposals are interpreted, they take over all of the day-to-day maintenance, all of the revenue collection, the permitting, all of the essentially operational side, as well as infusing back into the capital to maintain the assets in the condition that they were received in. So it really takes some of the day-to-day hassle, if you will, of parking, and puts it on a third party that manages this for a living, can take an economy of scale and help leverage it across all of their systems because they are nationally built out, versus internally, we just manage and spread the cost across our 7 garages that we maintain. So it gives some of that operational efficiencies there, but it also will cost obviously a revenue in terms of their profit margins.
Where would that leave us in terms of debt on the 2 newer garages and future capital outlay?
we'd still be on the hook.
Okay.
We would still be on the hook on how we play it out. They're still city-owned assets. At that point, they'd only be a management agreement, so we wouldn't be under any obligation to immediately pay off the debt that's outstanding on the assets, and could still potentially look at infusing more capital or put that on the management company to figure out a way to generate the revenue to do so.
Okay, so you're saying we could potentially just be on the hook for the debt if we,
They would likely pass off the extra cost of the capital investment
Okay.
onto the parking fees.
they being the
Management
management
company.
companies? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that's if they're managing it. If they buy it,
Then they're on the hook for it.
and they would pay off our bonds and everything. Of course, that'd be impact their price. They're willing to pay for it as well.
I don't believe that we'd be able to sell the garages without paying off the bonds because those are tax exempt municipal bonds. And if they're operating it as a for-profit, that would fall within the bond covenant. So we would have to defease those bonds as part of the sale, right?
Sure, but they could do that. They could come in and, as part of their purchase price, right?
Oh.
They'd be paying off those bonds first. I mean, it's probably like almost selling a house, right? You gotta
Right.
do this or that. This has to be signed before you can sign that or something.
Correct.
So, yeah.
So what if we were able to sell off all of our garages and pay off the debt and walk away? Would we be ahead or behind?
We would be ahead financially because at this point, we have a large liability within these assets. What we would lose as a city entity and as a governing body with a policy side is that we would lose the ability to offer incentives or leverage that parking rate as a way to help the development downtown. So there would be trade-offs in terms of public perception and our ability to influence certain activities and control certain rates downtown that we feel could impede future growth. But financially, the city would likely be better off long run.
So the direction that we would be looking for is, do we pursue management, or do we just pursue the sale, and do we pursue the sale in whole or in part? And Hannah has done a great job of explaining what the issues are in terms of only selling off one or two of the assets.
Any discussion from the committee, or?
I don't really see an advantage to a management agreement. I mean, if we can't do it with existing staff, I understand the economy of scale with a national company, but I just don't know that that's going to be enough to, I mean, they're going to have to make a profit. So at some point, it seems like the profit would offset the economy of scale that they might offer. I still remain interested in selling every single garage we've got, paying off the debt and walking away. I think between surface parking and on-street parking that the city will have to continue to operate. We can offer incentives. We can still continue to structure parking in the downtown. I don't know that we need to own parking garages, but that's just me. Thank you.
I would agree with those sentiments as well. I just don't know, is that a core function of government? And to the extent that we can actually monetize those assets and not be on the hook. I mean, we have enough deferred maintenance, but again, that's as Councilman Dober said, that's just one person's opinion. So now I guess two people's opinion. But Mr. Lesser, do you have an opinion on that or want to weigh in?
No, the only other thing I share the same sentiments. I don't particularly want to be in the parking lot business. If we have the opportunity to get out of it, then that's what I would do. Parking garage, not lot.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will proceed accordingly.
Okay. I might, I'm trying to think, I mean, us as a committee, I guess we can give you that feedback, but obviously we're just 3 council members. I guess I would maybe ask that you reach out to Councilwoman Hiller, who's, obviously this is her area, and there might be some things we're not thinking about or haven't considered, so.
Will do.
So thank you for your
Thank you very
time
much.
this morning. All right, the next item is the pedestrian plan and infill sidewalk recommendations for 2020. It looks like Mr. Finder and Ms. Ricketts are coming up.
Actually.
Yeah. Ricketts or Wolf?
Oh,
Okay, okay, sorry.
Both work.
You still have your old
I
name
know.
on your
Yeah.
email, so.
It's like half and half everywhere.
Just living double
Two
lives.
lives, yeah.
Thank you, committee. We want to present to you the recommendations for 2022 for the PED plan infill sidewalk item in the CIP. And as we've done in the past, we've just, this line item follows pretty much the schedule that had been set forth in the plan. If you recall, when this was adopted a few years ago, we did a analysis of the demand for pedestrian activity, which you see here, and we prioritized those areas with the highest demand. And we did that by looking at how close people were to bus routes and parks and trails, schools, areas that did not have sidewalks, and intensive care areas where there would be a higher need for walking. So that was the analysis done. So we've been following a schedule here the last 10 years or so. And so the neighborhoods were broken down into 5 groups. The first group, Group A, that's ones we've already completed. Those are the ones in yellow there that you see. The those were the areas with the highest demand that had schools. That's kind of how we grouped them. And then, so we're into Group B right now. We just have completed North Topeka West, but this Group B was high demand without schools. So these are areas that did not necessarily have a school within walking distance. And so for this year, the next neighborhoods on the schedule would be the downtown, Historic Holiday Park, and Tennessee Town. Those are in red there on the slide. Those are all adjacent to each other, at least the areas that we would show on the map, which is the proposed area for investment would be bounded by Washburn on the west, 10th on the north, Madison on the east, and 13th and Huntoon on the south. And again, those comprise of 3 separate, basically, neighborhoods. Tennessee Town, Historic Holiday Park, and technically that's part of Monroe, but we consider that the edge of downtown. So that area, as you can see also, is almost all filled up with sidewalks. So most of this project is going to go towards repair, improvement of poorly conditioned sidewalk, as well as any crosswalks and ADA ramps in that area. So pedestrian facilities, typically what would happen in the project is there is a inventory of the conditions by a engineering hires a consultant, goes out and does that inventory, works with Ms. Wolf here, actually with the neighborhoods, and we use that information, the conditions existing, what they're recommending, and we take that to the neighborhood and work with them to finalize a set list of blocks to do within that area, the highest priorities. So this is all about identifying, at the very top level, identifying where we want to go, and then drilling down into those blocks that would have the highest need for repair. Any questions on that before I?
Yes,
Finish
Chandra, I had a question on the, and you'll say you'll go in here and do maintenance on the sidewalks, and I guess I always thought the maintenance of individual sidewalks were the responsibility of the property owner. Matter of fact, I think something we're going to talk about later is the 50/50 sidewalk program here. How does that interface with this?
So this program was started way back when we barely had a drop of any funds to go out and actually fix sidewalks on our own. You're right, and currently that is true. The ultimate maintenance of the sidewalk would be the property owner's responsibility. This is more of a proactive approach that we've used to go in. These sidewalks are probably, certainly in these higher demand areas, these are 80, 100-year-old facilities. And so we look at these as part owner, kind of quasi-public, go in there. Are there block, much like we do with SORT. SORT, we identify sidewalks, improvements, and so we proactively work with the neighborhood. Where is the highest need here? Bringing facilities back up to standard, and in some areas actually install sidewalks. These areas, as you can see, happen to have mostly repair issues. I think one of the nearby neighborhoods we did, Central Park, a very similar process. A lot of, we're talking about areas that where people do not have the funding, the incomes to replace 50-foot wide, 50-foot linear feet of sidewalk. So we also, I think the contractor goes out and identifies at least chunks that they can do all, as opposed to a piece here and a piece there. It's more, okay, if 80% of this block is gone, we'll replace, we'll do this block. So that's how that was the impetus behind this, is that we take a shared approach to helping pedestrian facilities here in the cities.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just need to think about that probably longer than just this meeting, but I just,
It-
I'm just trying to think, because I have that, sometimes that happens in my district or other districts. I hear that, there's people that it's same thing, they can't afford,
Right.
but they get cited by property maintenance, and now they're in this, almost this quasi-legal thing that they have to get it fixed, and then it seems like there's other parts where we just go in and do the whole thing for them, and I just wonder where the equity is there. It might be there, but I just need to think about it.
Good point. I mean, the equity here is we backed out and tried to prioritize where's the highest demand we would expect. So where we think most people would need the facility, that's where we're going to go in and help, as opposed to just put it all in the backs of the owners of those properties. Because it's not just, it's like a street. It's not just the property owner using that sidewalk. It's their neighbor. It's the school kids. It's everybody uses that connectivity. And if one piece of a sidewalk is upended and a trip hazard, it's not just that property owner's that's going to suffer. It's going to be the whole neighborhood or the whole block that suffers. So
Sure, yeah, I agree,
look
but
at
we
that
make the
approach.
others, but
Yeah.
I totally hear you and agree with that, but that's not, that's not what we do other places. We make the people do the 50/50. So that's my only qualm about that. If we were doing this everywhere, I wouldn't have an issue, because we're government, we're serving, we're doing this. It's just, I gotta think about that for a little bit, so.
Well, I'm not, without putting words in anybody's mouth, I don't think we can afford to do that everywhere. So what we can afford, we prioritize into the highest need area, and that's what we take on.
Any questions from the other members of, Mr. Lesser? I can't, no, okay,
No, sir.
okay. Please continue then.
Okay, and then one other, on that schedule, we also have done a couple corridors in the last 7, 8 years, where one of them that we have not completed yet was Topeka Boulevard. We've started that with, so we do a combination of a neighborhood and try to do a piece of a corridor. Topeka Boulevard was a priority corridor out of the plan between 29th and 37th. So if we, Taylor's been putting together the last couple of years grant applications through KDOT to help do that. We've got, I'd say 90% of the west side of Topeka Boulevard done. There's an expensive segment there yet to be done, and then you got about 50% of the east side of Topeka Boulevard. And so we, all told, that's another over $800,000 cost to do that. So what we tend to do is, if we don't get, if we aren't successful with the grant from KDOT, can we take $100,000 and do a segment, which there is a perfect segment in there right now that we could complete, and we could have 100% connectivity at least on the west side of Topeka Boulevard. That would be nice. So we'll see what happens when the consultants and neighborhood come back with their ultimate to-do list for those neighborhood areas, see if we get the grant, and then we kind of see where we're at the end of the day and see if we can work on one of those segments. So that was that. And then there was some interest in knowing more about the Complete Streets Advisory Committee, so we just thought we'd throw this informational background in, if you'd like.
I'm sorry, Mr. Finder. Councilwoman Hiller had sent me some comments, and I'm trying to look at them here kind of with one eye as I follow you. One thing she said, she wrote, she doesn't think the South Topeka Sidewalk project made it into the resolution. And I don't know if that's a resolution we already passed or it's one that's in front of us.
We probably, I think that's a point for bringing it to your attention, is we probably need to put that in, particularly if we get grant money. We don't want to be.
So that'll be later on. You'll be putting that in the resolution.
I think you would do it now to have that option. I can't sit here and tell you, we can't tell you that for sure we're going to do Topeka Boulevard.
Okay.
But if you'd rather have us come back at a time when we know we're going to do a segment, or we got the grant money, that's perfectly fine as well.
You're saying if we put it in and you don't get the grant, you will do the very minimal.
Correct.
West side.
Correct. That would give us
side
the authorization to go ahead and do the 100,000 segment on that west side.
Any questions or thoughts from the committee on that?
No, sir.
Okay.
So would the recommendation be to go ahead and include the missing block at the 3700 block or whatever that is of South Topeka Boulevard, add that into the resolution as a new number 2 under the 2022 infill pedestrian plan? And then,
Yeah,
and then if you don't get the grant, then you've got the authorization under the resolution to do that?
Yes, I think that's the, what block, that's gonna,
29th is the farthest that, and so that's
To the right.
behind Brewster. Is that like 30th?
but what's the?
What 100
What's-
block
Goes up
or
to
100?
37th, it
what's
looks
the
like on
street
here.
that cuts into Brewster?
Yeah, I think it's like 30.
Okay.
30th or 31st.
So I'd say between 29th and 31st would be on the west side of Topeka Boulevard, would be the location.
2900 to the 3100
Yeah.
block.
Is that what that? I can't read it. Is that 31?
It's a little small.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're talking
That-
just
that's
the red though, correct?
Pardon me?
The first red or the second?
Yeah, those two little red
Yeah.
Yeah,
dashes.
it's that.
Pretty much.
It's that. It's got a retaining wall and it's got some slope issues.
Is that 31st? That can't be 31st. That's just the next
Might
south,
be
isn't it?
30th.
Is it? Good.
So do
We
we,
got anybody with this on a computer that can pull it up and see? I just-
It says 31st? That's what,
Is
is
that
it
right?
not specific enough to say the missing sidewalk segment
there's only, yeah, one.
on
Yes,
Topeka Boulevard between
Yes.
2900 and the 3100 block? Right?
sure.
That's fine,
That sounds good. Yeah.
but that's okay.
I just didn't want to find ourselves adopting something, then you find out it's one number off and you can't do something, so.
That would be very helpful, though.
Okay. And do you need a vote from us of this committee right now on that item? Okay.
Yes.
Well, the committee has heard the request. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this resolution on to the, recommend it to the council. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Now, I think you're doing the complete streets.
Yeah, with these. I was. Is it not working? It can only go.
I think other direction.
There we
Yeah.
go. Now it works. So the Complete Streets Advisory Committee, otherwise known as CSAC, Taylor works very closely with. They meet on a monthly basis. It actually was a subcommittee formed by the MTPO Policy Board a few years ago. Got its original start as the Bikeways Advisory Committee. So we've kind of been adding these complete street elements along the way, and really their main focus is to advise on implementation of the 3 core documents for, I guess, for complete streets, which would be the Bikeways Master Plan, the PED Plan, and the Complete Streets Guidelines, which have all been adopted by the MTPO. So that's what they advise, and there's about 15, 20 volunteers, community volunteers with interest in complete streets elements that Taylor, again, works with. Councilwoman Hiller is a very integral part of that over the years, and working on making sure, for instance, what we brought to you today, we take that to them first and say, okay, are we on track? Is this, do you see any other higher needs or a need that we need to deviate to before we bring it to you? So just working through those issues and advising staff. It's a ready body that has proved quite valuable over the years, particularly as we're breaking some new ground with these documents. So that's, if there's any other questions we can help with, please let us know.
Don't see any, so that's all we have. Okay.
That was it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Finder and Ms. Wolf.
Appreciate it.
All right, our next item is Resolution 9226, the half cent and GO bond authorizing various street, sidewalk, curb, and gutter projects for 2022. I believe that's Mr. Copley.
Thank you. Yes, we'll go, I think the starting point's going to be to go to the PowerPoint presentation because that will cover the items that are under the resolution that are on Schedule A of the resolution, of which we just made an amendment to the infill site, the 2022 infill sidewalk through the resolution. So Right, so just a quick overview. We're going to talk about the programs that we're going to be seeking the authorization. That would be ADA ramp and infill sidewalk, curb and gutter. We're going to give you a quick review and overview of what's planned under the Pavement Rehab Recon program that was approved by Resolution 9288. And then we'll also dive into the proposed projects for the alley repair, the contracted preventive maintenance, and the 50/50 sidewalk program. So as Bill had indicated, the target area for infill sidewalk is Tennessee Town, Holiday Park, and a portion of Monroe. As he had also mentioned, we target the ADA ramp program also within that area. You see the little cartoon balloons on there. Those are the 55 ramps at 23 locations that we've identified that need to be improved as part of the ADA ramp and infill sidewalk program. The curb and gutter program. So generally, those fall into two categories. One would be service requests, and then the other would be if we have sidewalk or curb and gutter that needs to be done as part of a mill and overlay project. The specific cartoon balloons on here are the ones that are proposed out of the 2022 curb and gutter replacement locations. And then those were north of 21st, and then these are the ones south of 21st. Just to, while our general rule is oldest first, kind of like first in, first out, the FIFO accounting system, right? If we have a complaint from 2017, and that's what the year we're up to, and I think, Vince, we've caught up with the 2010 through 2017.
That's correct.
So we've caught up with the 2010 through 2017. So if we have a 2017 complaint, staff does not just with blinders go in and do the one service request for 10 lineal feet that was filed in 2017. We'll have areas that there will be no service request on. We'll have other areas that may have had a 2022 service request. It only makes sense to be able to go in and have the contractor mobilize one time and knock everything out in that couple of block area, correct?
And just to pause there for 1 second, so in 1 year, we knocked 7 years of backlog out, is that correct? Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
From 2010, we're up to now, we're hitting 2018 on that list.
Well, fantastic work.
So all the credit goes to Vince. He has done a fantastic job of taking the reins over on this and clearing out the backlog so that I don't have to hear that on Tuesday night in terms of why we have such a backlog. Right?
That's
And
great work.
He is developing a plan to help us get rid of the next. In fact, besides the 2022, he's working on a list of projects for the next tranche to help get rid of some of the funds that we have left over in the various program years.
Fantastic. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
Now, just a quick overview in terms of Pavement and Rehab program. This is the program that we have approximately $7.6 million per year. This is full depth reconstruction, full depth repairs, mill and overlay. Those are the buckets or the types of projects that we're doing, correct? And so this year we've got mill and overlay either side of Cypress Ridge Golf Course, right? On the west side, we have 22nd to 27th, and that's east of Indian Hills Road, and then we have the east side, 21st to 29th, yours to Kings Row. And then we also have southwest 29th, Arrowhead to Shunga Creek. Another tranche of mill and overlay projects, neighborhood between 17th and 21st, Burnett to Gage. Bottom left corner, we've got individual street, Northwest Gordon, Buchanan to Topeka, and East Topeka North in some various locations in that neighborhood. Next tranche of mill and overlay, Southwest 45th from Mound View to Misty Harbor, and then southeast Gary Ormsby Drive. Basically, think of it from Topeka Boulevard over to Heartland Park. That one, contract's been awarded. Looking at a May start date. Obviously, the pre-con is going to be all about how do we schedule this to get some meaningful work done now, but then have the contractor basically pick up sticks, get out of there a week before the country stampede, and then after the stampede's over, remobilize and finish up what they couldn't get done. But we didn't want to wait until middle of July to start this because that road is in horrible condition now, and we're going to have a tremendous amount of traffic on that road.
Yes, please.
Braxton, these projects you're talking about, the pavement rehab and reconstruction, they've already been approved.
Yes, sir.
We're not reapproving anything.
No, sir.
We're looking at the sidewalks. And those
Yes, sir.
things. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate the update, by the way.
I just wanted to give you the update on these because obviously $7.5 million, a lot of questions coming up, particularly as we get into the construction season. Make sure you guys had these fresh in your mind, right? The last tranche that we'll go in through here is reconstruction, Carnahan, I-70 to 21st. Then we've got a street segment over in the Knollwood neighborhood around 28th Street. Another street segment, Kent Place, basically 10th to the end of, that's a cul-de-sac, so basically to the end of the cul-de-sac. And last of the pavement rehab program, repairs on California, north and south of I-70, focusing on that median, which is in horrible condition on both sides of I-70. We've got Golden, 21st, about a 400 stretch north of 21st on Golden. And then 6th Street, which is Oakley to McVicker. That was the last of the soft limestone concrete projects that we did. As you'll know when you're driving on that we're getting those joint failures, and that needs to be full depth repair with those failing joints. Any questions on the pavement rehab and reconstruction? Turning to the alley repair program, just as a starting point, we do have 3 alleys that are part of the program that were to have been done last year that are in North Topeka on either side of Kansas Avenue. We were not able to pull the trigger on those. That's when you'll see that we've got a pretty substantial amount of funding left over in the alley program, about $400,000 that's sitting there. Those 3 alleys are out to bid, or have they been bid, Robert?
In the process.
They're in the process of being bid. We're not going to pull the trigger on those until we finish the North Kansas Avenue project from Morse to Soldier, because we don't want to have everything snarled up. As soon as the contractor gets done on that project, then we'll start the contractor on the alley projects. So wanted you to be aware that the $400,000 tranche that is sitting open in that in 2021 is programmed. We're going to, on the alley 2022 program, we're looking at full replacement between Huntoon and 12th, Buchanan and Clay, Willow and 3rd between Woodlawn and Greenwood. And then we're looking at partial replacement, Hampton to 20th between Lane and Lincoln, 17th to 16th between Clay and Central Park. And lastly, Tyler between 7th and 6th, basically. And then we've got in design alley between 7th and Jackson, 7th and Jackson area that is in design, and that needs to be closely coordinated with the Jayhawk Theater in terms of when we will be implementing that. Questions on the alleys before we jump into contracted preventative maintenance? As a starting point, I will apologize. I misspoke last Tuesday's council meeting and said that the crack sealing and microsurfacing came out of the $7.6 million street rehabilitation. That's not, it's actually a separate line item. It is on page 78 of your budget book, and this is the contracted preventative maintenance. We do this by quadrant, and so this year the quadrants are northwest and southwest. We do not do every street in the quadrant, right? It's targeted. We're looking at PCIs of 70 approximately that we go in year one. We do the crack sealing. So butyl rubber, seal the cracks. Year two, we do the microsurfacing. And so for this year, we're looking at crack sealing in the northwest quadrant, so that will be in preparation for, that will become the,
That'd be in northeast, right?
I'm sorry, northeast quadrant, in preparation for next year, the northeast quadrant being microsurfacing. Obviously, there are a lot of, we're going back through now in our second tranche. So there's a lot of roads have been microsurfaced. We are not going to be resurfacing a road that was microsurfaced a couple of years ago. Again, the underlying philosophy on this is shift of paradigm from worst first reconstruction to keeping the good streets good with minimal cost to allow us to focus and target mill and overlay and reconstruction. Topic you've all been dying to discuss is the sidewalk program. This has been historically termed as the 50-50 sidewalk program. The starting point on this is it has to be residential, so 4 multifamily units or less, sidewalk in violation. Brick is not eligible for the 50-50 split, does not include cleaning or accessible ramps. Owner needs to pay their 50% of the estimated cost and no outstanding permit violations. The underlying premise of this program is that the responsibility is the property owners. The city is, as a policy matter, paying 50% of it. The process for how it goes, every year the city puts the contract out for bid for sidewalk repair. We will award and issue 2 POs, each of $50,000 for 2 contractors on this. So there will be a PO, which we'll get to the next slide, which I think has fostered the misunderstanding that this money gets fully spent every year. Homeowner learns about the program, either because they've been cited for a violation, which contains that information. A friend tells them, they look at the city's website and say, how would I be able to get into this program? Staff goes out, makes sure the criteria are met, inspects, gives a homeowner a cost estimate. Homeowner pays their 50% share up front. Once we get 5, we bundle it, give it to a contractor. They've got 30 days to go ahead and pay. Contractor invoices us. We then pay the contractor. Annual budget, $100,000 a year. Combined, $500,000. For the last 5 years, we've spent $350,000. We have basically $145,000 that is unspent. We are in the process right now of getting all of those closed out, and those funds will go back into the half-cent sales tax fund for the city council to figure out what it wants to allocate those funds for in the future.
Chair,
Yes.
if you remember about a year ago, City Engineer Mark Schreiner presented shall we say, another version of the 50-50 program. Mm-hmm. I do think that is something that we should re-engage in conversation. What it allows the homeowners to do is to make the repair, that new proposal, make the repair and then submit and receive some payment, if it meets the standards or whatever. Where we run into a lot of problem is, like Mr. Copley was saying, is that we have to bundle these and then put them out for bid. And so projects kind of build on us. And then a lot of times we have a hard time getting contractors that will put a bid in for that, because by the time they get awarded and all that, the work season's already going. And so this program is a very good program, but it also has a lot of issues. And so I would like to recommend that we pull that back off the shelf, kind of look at that again, because what it does, it allows the homeowners, they don't have to wait 3 months before they get bundled into a group of 5, that they can go ahead and make the repairs, and then they can submit stuff to the city of Topeka and get reimbursed for part of their cost.
So, and I do remember a little bit of that conversation last year. But I forget I guess I forget the mechanics of it. Was it that the 50% that the city would end up rebating them, if you will, would not exceed what it would have been under the city's bid? Is that it?
Yeah, in essence, and it's purely for materials, is what that reimbursement would be for. So it would allow the homeowner to pick or choose. We would also have a list of contractors that they could contact on their own, or they could do it themselves in essence. And as long as it meets all the elevation and all that other stuff, and we could give them some guidance and stuff like that. But I think it's just, we need to pull that back off the shelf and review it and look.
Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala, please go ahead.
Sorry, but I'm not going to show my face today, just my voice. I remember this conversation last year, and at that time I vehemently protested against it. Unless we are going to have, as part of that dialogue, a fully implemented and executable plan that is going to ask the NIAs and the public their thoughts on even having this type of program, I would not be in favor of it myself. Sorry, that was my dogs.
No problem.
But because what I think, sorry, hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sorry. What that's going to do is, initially when the conversation first started, that to me was just putting all of the onus, all of the responsibility on the homeowner. And a lot of these, especially in the LMI districts, are elders, and to try to maneuver through this process, to me, would be so cumbersome without a lot of training of, the public. And I don't see, unless we're really going to do a deep dive into this, I don't even see how a lot of folks in at least this district would be able to move through all of that minutia.
Okay, City Manager.
And I understand, but if you just look at the numbers here, to me, this program's not working. When I look at the numbers. So if there's a way that we can get more sidewalks done, this is just another option. Again, I think we ought to look at it. And if there is no appetite to look at it, then we move on forward and we continue with this program where we're going to reimburse back in, $150,000 in essence, because it's not being used, because the program, it's not being utilized. So.
Well, Bill, I'm City Manager, I think that some of that is because of the cost. I mean, I would like to see.
And that's where this program that Mr. Schreiner moved forward would make it to where it's more economical for the homeowner to get some of these things done, because we wouldn't have to go through the process of us bidding it out and all that other stuff. And so it actually gives a homeowner the option of contacting somebody or doing it themselves and get it done within a week, as opposed to waiting several months to get it done.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as I previously told you, I have another meeting at
12.
at noon. At noon, I'm going to have to drop off.
I understand. Yes, you did. And so I guess right now we're going to continue how we're doing the 50-50, but I guess, and I hear the councilwoman, and I think what we're all trying to get to is there are some people that even a streamlined version, they still, if it's $200 they have to come up with, it might as well be $1 million, to them. So maybe there's some point, and I know this is going to be, we obviously don't have time today to do this, but perhaps there's some way there could be some means testing at some level that, we don't want to bankrupt somebody to fix their sidewalk.
Yes, sir. I'd really like for us to explore things and see how we can come up with how we can help LMI neighborhoods get sidewalks replaced in their, in like District 1 and some of the other districts. Because those individuals deserve quality sidewalks so they can have mobility and all that. And we have to find a way that we can repair those sidewalks at an economic way for those individuals. And I think we just need to explore a lot of different options and have different options on the table. Just because we look at that other program doesn't mean we do away with the 50/50 program. We can have several things in conjunction to provide better service to these neighborhoods.
City Manager.
Chair?
I can-
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman.
One last thing that I would just say on it is that, okay, let's have the conversation, but not for a piecemeal conversation. A deep dive conversation, perhaps looking at means testing, and also the cautionary, the cautious look that we have to take at when you're giving the homeowner to, the ability to take all of this responsibility on. We also have to make sure that, like Billy Joe Bob doesn't come out of the woodwork, and do things for half the cost and shoddy workmanship. So I think that, again, I'd be open to conversations, but just hope that they can go longer than 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Copley, do you have something?
Yeah, obviously, I've given this a lot of thought, both in terms of culverts and sidewalks. And certainly, I think that there is an opportunity for the council as a policy decision to say, and X number of dollars will be funded that will go towards the full cost of replacement if the person meets the affordability requirements. And I wouldn't reinvent the wheel. We already have the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department that is doing means testing, has criteria that are out there. And then, there's people that can afford to pay, and they should pay. And then there are those that can't afford to pay. And that's where I think that there may be an opportunity, just to throw something out. So fund next year, or 2023, at $200,000, with the understanding that $100,000 of it's coming from ARPA will be used towards full replacement of LMI that meet the appropriate requirements. The remaining amount would be as part of the traditional 50/50 program. Do that as a pilot program. Let's see, first come, first served. Do it as a pilot. Let's judge based on, is it successful? Do we want to continue this? What's the funding level, right? I'm also mindful of protecting staff. I don't want to say $1 million or $500,000 because staff is going to have to manage this program.
Sure.
And it's outside of just public works staff, correct?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think there's a certain number of folks that just cannot afford either a sidewalk or to fix their driveway culvert. The same folks that are paying stormwater utility fees that really don't get the same service as somebody that's fortunate enough to have a storm sewer in front of their property. So I like your idea. I think it has to be a limited number of folks that meet the qualifications. If we can get that set up, I think a pilot, I don't know that we're going to have time to talk about driveway culverts today, but similar thing. I think we could look at a pilot program maybe next year for that, as well as the sidewalk. So great idea. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. I would agree with the pilot program, but we need something now. Actually, we needed something yesterday, last year, the year before that, decades ago. And I think that when we look at, people are not asking for this to be done or not demanding it, it's because, and I realize we only got a few minutes left, it's because we were always told that we had to pay for it and people just cannot afford it. I have an email from her from 2017, 1269 Republican. I will repeat that. so it gets in our minutes. 1269 Republican. And she needs something done with her COVID. I hear in Oakland, same thing as Councilwoman Christina, Valdivia Acala. There's people over there, they can't afford it. And so I don't know if we want to do a special meeting or something, but we need to do something now. We need to do something now.
Sure, and I hear you, Councilwoman, and I agree. I know you've been working on a couple there for a long time. I guess my only thing is, we got about 4 minutes till 2 of the members have to leave. And so I guess my request would be to city manager or staff. I really can't direct staff, just city manager, I guess. Could we see something? I know you can't get it ready for tonight, but maybe the first meeting in May. Is there a way we could roll out some sort of, I'm sensing no might be the answer, but could we get some small pilot, $10,000 to help with some of these areas for this year?
And if I may, Tony,
Sure.
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
on the culvert, I don't know if it's just even something that, you know how we hear, this is the way that it's always been done. And so that's why we need this particular piping. We really need to figure that out. So if there's a cheaper way that we can get that done. If not, then I'm going to pay for 1269 Republican. And this will be another one that I'm paying for that at some point we can't keep doing. I can't keep doing this.
Okay. Well, I would ask that city manager work with staff and get us something in the next, as quick as you can, so we could maybe do a pilot program this year.
Could I suggest,
Sure.
in fairness to staff, some of which have pretty significant workloads, to give us a month?
Sure.
Because it's not just public works staff or utility staff, it's also reaching across the aisle to HND staff in terms of their guidance, in terms of what would be the appropriate LMI levels and restrictions, to come to you with something that we could recommend. And then obviously the policy decision to you is what level, what amount, and when, correct?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. That's first meeting in June?
This, I would look at this committee meeting in the
Okay, a month from now.
month from now, right?
Sure.
Be the third week in May,
Yeah.
would that be correct?
Yes. Okay. I have no issue with
terms
that.
of having a
I just think the
draft-
thing is to get
draft
some action
policy.
on that. Yes, please. Okay, and I'm sorry, do you need this resolution passed
Yes,
from this
sir.
committee? Okay. So we have in front of us a resolution that basically it just incorporates the changes that Director Copley has outlined this morning. You have it there in your packet. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? We may be it. Okay.
You're the
Okay,
second.
I will second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? We're not going to oppose it, so, okay.
No, and that motion was as amended, correct, on the resolution?
Yes, as amended, yes. We have one more. I know there's one other thing that you need some action on, correct? And it's from the firm. If, Mr. Tryon, if you have, can you make it very
30 seconds?
quick? Yeah, like a minute?
I'll be very brief.
All right.
As you know, we approved in our previous meeting repairs to the roof of TPAC, which also incorporates some of City Hall. There was further damage. We did an additional repair, but upon the second time that we discovered leaks, it was determined that we need to make a full replacement of that roof. So there was a memo that was sent out. We do not have a full resolution in front of you. We're working on that. But with your approval, we will get you that resolution to go in front of the entire governing body. But it would be for a full replacement of the roof of TPAC and City Hall because of the continued water penetration.
I guess a question. Under our rules, do you need a resolution for a specific project?
Because we have not had approval before to spend this amount of money for this particular repair, we would.
Okay, I thought under the firm it gave you, okay.
That was one of the requests after the CIP 2 sessions ago,
Okay,
for any programmatic funds.
okay.
So because it is a programmatic fund and because we have not asked specifically for this repair in this amount before, we're seeking formal approval.
Okay, go ahead. And I second that. I think personally that's very smart if you're going to spend $30,000 or you can get it fixed for $200,000. It seems to me like it makes a lot of sense. So, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And now, does that have to go to the council?
Yes, which is
Okay.
where we'll try to get the resolution finished this afternoon if we can.
Okay. Okay.
So there's quite a few moving parts there as we're trying to get the exact amount, determine the exact
Sure.
repair that will go in place. So those numbers were finalized a very brief time ago.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Tryon. Is there anything else in front of the committee?
Parking garage?
So on the parking garage, that is
Thank
not
you.
something that's requiring formal approval at this time. What I wanted to make sure that this body was aware of is that we have proposed those before and have talked about spending those funds out of the parking maintenance budget. We have not done that as of this time because of the pending RFQs that are taking place. But we do want the governing body to be aware that there are some safety issues at stake, and that's another reason why we need to make decisions quickly if we are going to make those repairs.
Okay. Yep. No issue with that. Okay. Anything else? Seeing no other business before the committee, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.